Going to talk this next 90 minutes about, for all of you folks in LA who are living literally in a gas cloud of methane gas and spiced with radioactivity. You don't know it. They won't tell you. It's true. And there are some, including myself, who are suggesting that parts of the San Fernando Valley ought to be evacuated. Maybe a big part. It's not just the Porter Ranch. It's gas that doesn't know any borders. It just goes and goes and goes. And it's going, but it's not going alone. And the issue of radioactivity coming up from deep in the ground is not being talked about, except here. We're going to talk about it. Yoshi Shimatsu knows all about it. He has put it together. He is telling the truth. He is telling the story that's not supposed to be told. Dana Durnford is here as well. Dana, welcome to the program. Listen, tell us about methane in and of itself is deadly. It's bad. It's very toxic. How did you figure out about the radioactivity which is being spewed all over the place? No one's talking about it.
Well, there's methane, there's sulfur compounds, there's benzene, xylene, mercaptane, which gives the smell to, gas. This gas is odorless, basically. It's very old natural gas, deep underground, 2 miles underground. But I'll tell you what the scandal is. Well, I found out about it was through the California State EPA report. They mentioned radon in the area traditionally.
Yeah.
But also the California State Environmental Protection Agency also said that besides the L.A. County officials there, Governor Brown's office, state officials there, that interestingly, the camel pokes its nose into this tent, in northern Los Angeles, Aliso Canyon, and that camel, as we well know, is the nuclear protectors, the so-called regulators, protectors, and promoters of the nuclear industry. And so on the Environmental Response Committee, we have 3 major national laboratories. Okay? Mm-hmm. They're basically part of this remedial action, if you want to call it, though very little has been done or remedies to the situation.
Sure.
And these laboratories are the Lawrence Laboratory, top nuclear weapons laboratory, of course, United States, the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, another top nuclear weapons laboratory, and out in New Mexico, the Sandia National Lab.
So we got Lawrence Livermore and Sandia National Labs. Okay.
Right, watching over what's happening in the Aliso Canyon, and no wonder the L.A. Times, the McClatchy Group, that puts out the Sacramento Bee, San Francisco Chronicle, none of the major papers are making this a front-page item. At best, it's a local news story of a little gas leak out there in some very unknown part of Los Angeles County.
A little gas leak,
this is how it's treated, yeah. And it turns out that I was looking up advertising in that area. Because I have some roots in Los Angeles and all that. Family members out there. So the area is very familiar to me out there. Turns out that in this area for decades, there have been companies that basically they vacuum clean the radon out of your basement and out of your cabinets. They advertise regularly in the Porter Ranch area. Radon has been a long-term problem, and right now the residents are reporting. So a lot of residents that do have, Geiger counters, dosimeters, they have radon warning devices installed by these companies under their sinks and all that, and they're saying massive amount. This gas leak has been pushing massive amounts of radon all over Porter Ranch area. It's coming out of cracks into your houses. And also the mist, this blowout, lots of radon coming out in this massive mist. And what we're talking about is 50 tons an hour of gas, of basically gas coming out of there, the methane, natural gas, this whole natural gas mix is coming out of there. There's got to be a lot of radon. And one of the questions people may have is, why is there this radioactive gas coming out of the ground in this suburb of Los Angeles?
What's it doing? Where did it come from? Why is it there? Exactly.
Okay, well, this isn't the first time, probably. This is not a natural gas well. They use the word well, but, it's not like natural gas is naturally coming out of the ground. What it is, these were very old oil fields run by J. Paul Getty. He was the owner of Occidental Oil, very famous, scandalous sort of fellow. Getty Museum. A lot of people visit the Getty Arts Museum in Los Angeles. Well, the man who's behind that was J. Paul Getty. He had an oil field there in these hills along this ridge line that's along the San Fernando Valley. It's one of the walls along the valley. He had oil fields there back in the 50s, okay? And they pumped until the 70s and were shut down. In 1973, Southern California Gas took over those empty oil fields. Now, the oil was in these reservoirs 2 miles below the ground, down, let's say, between 8,000 feet underground to 8,700 feet of ground. It's something like an aquifer down there. In fact, there's water there. The oil floats on water. There's an aquifer down there, brine. Where there's water, there's brine that was used for injection of brine to push up the oil, and there is still residual oil there. Now, what it is this is very much like Cigar Lake, Canada, where you've got bedrock. Most of California is basically sandstone there. So below that, you've got this aquifer, and below the aquifer, it rests on a layer of bedrock, basically seabed there, very hard stone, and that's where you'll find uranium and thorium deposits.
The water floats on top of that bedrock and picks up uranium and radon and just ejects it.
Yeah, and then and the problem is when you pump gas in there, they pump it down. The gas is highly pressurized. So, and there's water in there. So basically what you're doing is you're inadvertently fracturing, water pressure fracturing uranium and thorium down there, speeding up the breakdown and also releasing
very interesting. Yeah. Fracking.
Yeah, so the radium is down there. There's all kinds of decaying materials down there. But radium, depending on the isotope, there's many isotopes, from 1,000 years old to, let's say, just a few seconds old, radium will break down, will degrade into radon gas. And that's it's very volatile. It's been a problem, especially in the western states, in places like the Rocky Mountains, where you have like granite soils. It's a major cause of cancer, lung cancer, and it takes very, very little of this radon inside air or natural gas to come into your house to cause lung cancer. And this is something we'll discuss. This is being covered up in 3 major national laboratories, and this could well be explained why Southern California Gas, this gas leak was so-called discovered on October 23rd. We have no idea how long.
It could have been going on for weeks because you can't see methane. It's invisible. Hold on a minute. We have to pause. Yoshi will come right back.
Okay.
This is a huge story, and as I said earlier, parts of L.A. ought to be evacuated like Tokyo. Right after this, we shall continue, so stay right there. As everyone can see, we could be hours or minutes away from a national crisis. Are you ready? Back with Yoshi. Let me check in and see if Dana is there. Are you there, Mr. D?
Yeah. I am, so thank you. Hi, Yoshi. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Dana. Thanks for being here. We're talking about this radioactive methane expulsion, which is covering the San Fernando Valley. And we'll talk and get your view on that in just a minute. Hang on. For those of you who just joined us, the methane leak, or as they say in England, methane, the main danger from the high radon content, I'm getting a total echo of my voice, is an increased risk, which Yoshi said, of lung, any age cancer, lung cancer. Radon is a noble gas rapidly exhaled after being breathed in. However, radon progeny combined with other molecules in the air, and it will then turn into particles of dust, aerosols, and smoke, and laced with radon, and readily deposit in the airways of the lung. This is not a joke. We could have hundreds of thousands of cases of lung cancer in the San Fernando Valley in the not-too-distant future. And no one is telling those people to get the hell out.
That is no exaggeration, Jeff. I mean, you don't need very much. And you got to understand, the radon only has a 3-day half-life, but there's so much radium apparently inside below the ground there in that reservoir below Porter Ranch.
Yes.
That is constantly generating enormous amounts of tons of radon apparently a day. Radon's decay materials, after it breaks down into radioactive lead. So you get a heavy metal lead, which is lead poisoning, right?
Wow, radioactive lead. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
not your brain cells. And you have polonium, as we know, a massive poison. If you want to poison somebody, that's a very famous case, the Litvinenko case in England, the Russian defector or whatever, and by polonium. You've got polonium in the air, plus the radium. And where there's radium, you're going to find particles, tiny particles, because, again, this stuff is coming out unfiltered, of uranium, thorium, and maybe dozens and dozens of other
nuclides,
isotopes, particles that have just been blown into the air. And this, you got to understand, it's not just this. Los Angeles was massively hit in 2011, spring, right? By Fukushima, and ever since by the California current, the radioactive water from Japan, from the water, the sea dumping done by Tokyo Electric Power, and LA was also swept by San Onofre whenever the winds blew in that direction. It blew right into the LA basin where it's trapped.
Yeah.
So Los Angelinos have got a triple punch. This is like the third knockout punch. 3 strikes and you're out. San Fernando Valley, towns like Northridge, UC Northridge, major campus there, are going to be hit by this stuff because whenever the wind blows in from the sea, and everyone who knows who's done surfing out there in California beaches knows when the waves pick up, that means the wind are basically coming off the sea and they're being pulled uphill by the rising heat from the mountains in the LA area and from the desert. So, there's this massive wind blowing from Porter Ranch, which is sort of on the northeast side of Los Angeles. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's on the northern side, but it's blowing into the San Fernando Valley, up and down the San Fernando Valley, over into Ventura County.
It gets trapped in the valley. The valley has long since been a trap of smog out there. Yeah.
And the Atlantic Basin as a whole. So this stuff isn't going anywhere soon, until the Santa Ana winds come along, and that's still a long way before the desert winds blow through and blow the stuff out to sea. So L.A. is basically a toxic zone, not just, we talk about San Fernando Valley, we're talking about L.A. as a toxic area, the basin, for at least until early summer. Okay, this is a very, very bad situation we're facing, and radon is so dangerous that in natural gas, in a cubic meter of natural gas, the U.S. EPA limit, the United States federal environmental limit on it is 2 picocuries per cubic meter. That's less than 0.07, okay? That's 0.07 becquerels. It's very, very little. That takes, because your lungs are so sensitive. You breathe in large volumes of air, and this stuff basically attaches to your lung tissue, and you're going to get lung cancer. So, serious problem for L.A., not attended to because we have a media blackout because the national labs have an interest in suppressing this information as they do in every nuclear disaster, 3 major national laboratories. And plus we've got all these volatile organic compounds that destroy your immune system, wreck your lungs, wreck your nervous system. So the people at Porter Ranch, 20,000 people very close by, especially in the upper altitudes there, but the whole area of Los Angeles, massive. This is a massive event. We're talking how many? 50 per hour just jetting out. Now, it took Southern California Gas did not do anything for the first 5 weeks. Finally decided to put in a relief well.
Don't ask, don't tell. Yeah.
To the 2 picocuries per cubic meter that's contaminating gas. In other words, this gas cannot be sold, okay? It cannot be sold. It violates environmental rules. The radon content is high. Did Southern California Gas say, my gosh, this is a golden opportunity. Let's get rid of this stuff. We can't sell it. We don't want to store it. Very possible if you know how these corporate people think, people in the mining industry.
Right.
They just love to, just like in Fukushima, they just love to vent everything. You drop it into the just dump it into the atmosphere as if it's not going to hurt anybody. And same sort of thinking from industry, same irresponsible stuff. And it took local residents, protests by local residents, finally some city assembly members, then state assembly members coming in, federal government sitting by watching, wishing this thing wasn't happy, just looking the other way. Typical,
That's exactly right.
Fukushima right there inside Los Angeles. People have got to wake up. We've got to break this nuclear monopoly. There are no sacred cows anymore. Nuclear is not safe.
Right.
It's just diabolically dangerous for people, especially young kids, older people. It's got to be stopped.
What's the biggest danger Southern California faces? Diablo Canyon, appropriately named.
Yeah.
They have a meltdown at Diablo. L.A. is toast. It's not like Fukushima and Tokyo. It's too close.
Yeah.
It goes right into the
Very
L.A.
close.
basin. Goodbye, L.A.
Yeah. Leaking, that would be the fourth knockout punch. It'll be over, and L.A. basically finished. It'll go back to being a desert. Everyone who stays will be dead. Everyone who flees will be dying.
All
And,
true.
It's got to be done. I mean, this is a major American economic center. When former Premier Prime Minister Naoto Kan came over and warned the city council of San Diego, they had to shut down San Onofre. The economic damage, health damage to the population would be inconceivable in the Southern California area. Southern California has a greater economy than most countries of the world. It would be 10th or 9th in the world today.
All true. Yeah, all true. Let me ask.
About radiation. People are not listening. Yeah.
Let me ask Dana to weigh in here in our last couple minutes, this half an hour. Dana, this radioactive methane gas catastrophe in L.A. is being carefully suppressed in the media. The real dangers are not being talked about. Those people down there really, honestly don't have much of a chance.
Yeah, radon in such high quantities, I guess, is not something we're used to seeing either,
No, good.
It sticks to everything. It sticks to dust. It gets picked up by rain, distributed and absorbed that way through kids and animals and people themselves, of course. And it permeates into your homes, and same thing with the gas that's coming through. It's really heavy, and so it sinks to the lower parts of your home. And in those places where it's so hot, people spend a lot more time in their basements. But it's kids are closer to the floor, and children are playing on the floor and stuff like that. And so anybody that has small or has animals and or kids and whatever the case may be, that's a concern. And so ventilation, you got to have constant ventilation is still not a solution, but it's just a way forward if you're not going to leave there. And it's hard for people to leave their homes. But the right thing to do is leave your homes when you got such a big supply of these gases coming through.
Well, people don't want to leave their homes because they've got no defense. They're not counting on the police to do much to defend their houses. Right. Burglars will head right in there. There's no question about it.
Get a storage unit. Put everything in a storage unit.
That's right. Porter Ranch is the elite equestrian residential area of the San Fernando Valley. Big money there. A lot of money. Upper middle class, rich people, horse trails everywhere. One's in
the Oregon. There's a lot of people that got, not a lot, but several thousand people got funding from the well company to move out. Problem being is that the wellhead that they need to cap is a big hole around it, and the gas is coming up around it. So they can't reach into it because of all the gas, and if they hit a spark, the boom-boomies. They'll never get a cap on anything.
Oh, it would blow sky high. One spark. Yeah. Boom.
One spark, yeah. And it's hard to avoid it in that scenario. Even rocks can spark each other.
I wonder if the explosion would reach across the valley to one degree or another in the air like a flash blast. I think
there's not much wind that day, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because think of steam coming or smoke coming out of a fire, folks, and how far, like a forest fire, it can travel and how thick it can be. Because it's a big volume. That's what we're talking about here.
The only way they could get pictures of the methane was to do it with infrared cameras because it's hot and it showed up. Yeah, it's fascinating. All right, hold on. We have to pause. Folks, we'll come right back with Yoshi and Dana as we continue our weekly radiation report for you to do with what you will, but at least you can't tell anybody you weren't told, and we really appreciate you caring and standing by. We'll be right back with more. Okay, welcome back. Hour number 3, and we usually have Yoshi and Dana on this hour. We've had them already for a half an hour. Let me ask this. First, Yoshi, what can and should be done for the people of the Porter Ranch and the San Fernando Valley in L.A.? What should be done now?
Well, because of the outcry from the county and state, at least the people of Porter Ranch will be paid some compensation. But, not everyone there is evacuated, not all 20,000 people. So there should be a much, larger evacuation. As for San Fernando Valley, we don't know how that could be handled. It's a vast area, 1 million people there. So it's not clear how the state should handle that. That's up to lawyers and health authorities. What they are trying to do is they're trying to put in 2 relief wells. They're trying to put down a well all the way down 2 miles, okay, a pipe. They're drilling a pipe 2 miles. That won't be completed for another week or more. And they're going to try to pump the gas out. Yeah, pump the gas out to relieve the pressure. So the blowout doesn't have as much force behind it. I mean, this thing has been going on, nearly 3 months. It's an incredible amount of force that the gas could just keep this enormous amount of gas. The other thing that they're putting in at a diagonal, they're trying to they're trying to bore through to the rupture point. There's a pipe there, and there's a casing that's been ruptured, and that's where the gas is allowed the gas to leak out. They're coming in diagonal, but it's very difficult to find. They have to use very high-tech magnetic visualization technology, perhaps tomography, I don't know, to locate this thing and then seal it with cement polymer compound so that they can plug it, basically, cork it. And it's not clear, really, if, in fact, they're going to meet their deadline on either project. They got a very, very late start, and as I said, that's very suspicious in itself. They claimed that the thing it was first discovered on October 23rd. We have no idea when this thing started leaking. So basically, they've got to stop the leakage first. The residual problem, they got to pay. Basically sanitize everyone's house, clear the air. Scrub everything down because there's all kinds of.
Oh no! Wait a minute! Hold on. We've seen this alleged house decontamination in Fukushima and so on. A joke. It doesn't work.
Well, again, if there's radiation, if there's radium, if there is, these mineral compounds, if there's radium, if there's uranium, decay minerals there, like thorium, stuck to the walls, stuck to the sidewalks, on the lawns.
What are you going to do? Pressure what?
People, 20,000 people, you've got to move. This place is going to be going back to desert, right? It's uninhabitable.
Yes.
Very tough for them. You're going to try every means to fool the residents into thinking this is safe for you, your horses, and your dogs, and your kids. Okay? This is what they're going to say. They've already started saying that there's a lot of lawyers, maybe jump on the case, and they will go for a settlement. Here's some cash.
Sure,
now go home and leave us alone, okay? I think the other thing we need to understand about SoCal Gas, it's not a public utility like people think of a public utility. A corporation that's local, that serves the community in the public interest, that tries to help people out. This thing is owned by a company called Sempra, which has more assets in Latin America and Mexico. Basically, LA is just a market for Southern America. The ownership is not very clear. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, we're not really sure who really owns the thing. And what I found out so far is that the CEO, Deborah Reed, she's a former Halliburton executive. They do oil well development and nuclear development. Major board member, James Brocksmith, Fluor, another nuclear and oil-related industry. And one of the top board members is Kathleen Brown. She's in charge of environmental issues. She worked for 12 years for Goldman Sachs. Okay? So Goldman Sachs has got some fingers in this company, all right?
Sure.
So Yeah, well, you got to understand, the whole image of the oil and gas industry, they try to wrap themselves up in the red, white, and blue. Oh, we're patriotic. We want to end dependency on Middle East oil. In fact, they're major international corporations, okay, that get their financing from the Arabs, from the Israelis, from the Russians and so forth. We don't know where that money's coming from, and they could care less about local people. They're there for profit only. And so we got to understand what we're dealing with, how they can get so much power in the state of California for this cover-up is that Sempra, the major ownership company, they're the largest donor in California districts. These are electoral districts number 50 and 12. 50 is the district of the Republican head of the state delegation. That's Duncan Hunter, San Diego area. And District 12 is San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi. Okay, they got Nancy Pelosi people in their pocket. They donate to Hawaii, of all places, to Senator Brian Emanuel Schatz. Who graduated from the same Puna High School of President Barack Obama. Is an old buddy of Barack Obama.
We got to get this.
And he was one of the first people. He's one of the first people to tell Barack, you run for president, I'll get you the money, okay? So, and he is a bad man for Barack Obama in Hawaii, and that's the only congressman, in that area, in Hawaii, that they're donating. He used to be a congressman, senator. But this company's main base in the United States is in Louisiana. Okay, people are comparing Porter Ranch to the BP disaster in the Gulf. Well, guess what? Sempra is a big-time Gulf energy player. On their payroll is Representative Charles Boulani. He's married to the niece of former Governor Edward Edwards. Total crook, went to prison. Okay, former governor of Louisiana, and also one of their big guys in Louisiana, Senator Dave Vitter, who represents the senatorial district where the Napoleonville radioactive, what do you call those collapses? Those collapses, sinkhole. Remember the famous sinkhole in Louisiana?
Sure.
Radioactive and growing?
Yep.
He represents that district. He's on their payroll. So we got to understand, this is not your corner store gas station here. This is a major international conglomerate with unknown financial resources. Where they're getting them. One of them is the Oppenheimer Group. We know that. That are in control of what's happening there in L.A., the life and death of L.A., and they didn't do anything for 5 weeks, okay? And it's going to take them more than 3 months to complete putting in the relief valve, which still, the thing's going to still be leaking.
If it works, it'll just cut it down.
It sounds like Fukushima all over again. They promise these panaceas, and for some reason it doesn't work out. They give a lame excuse. They come back with another panacea. This is terrible. L.A. has been triple hit by nuclear disasters. The last thing they need is free-floating radon all over this huge county. This is crazy. Oh, the other thing, for Dana, is similar, although this is not exactly a fracking exercise, okay, that it does show the dangers of fracking all along the North American, the Rocky Mountains, the Canadian Rockies, and, east of the Rockies, the massive fracking operations that are doing the same thing. This is a high-speed version of what fracking does. It's by putting enormous amounts of liquid under pressure, water under pressure, that far down, you're forcing the radon gas to go through basically permeate, to move up to the surface and contaminate people's homes, industry, everything. Yeah. So there's a larger lesson here about the real dangers of fracking that we really haven't been looking at. It's radon. It's lung cancer. It's all these other nuclear compounds that may be escaping with these underground gases.
Well said. Well said. You're not going to hear that on the LA media. All right, Dana, go ahead. Step in here.
It's hard, because I look at the pollution, the way it comes across the ocean, and it gathers up around California, and California hangs on to it. So the gas that is coming out of there, a huge percentage of that is running down all those hills to the coastline. But
it may not be running to the coast. A lot of that stuff will flow in towards San Bernardino and Riverside, where the smog goes to retire.
Right. That's what I'm saying. A lot of it, because there's a lot of other stuff in there. Hydrogen sulfide, benzene. There's all kinds of other.
Benzene. Oh,
right,
good.
all kinds of heavy stuff coming out of there, and that all hangs out low. You're right by saying what you say. To me, what are you supposed to do there? You got to get out of the way anyway. All the radiation from Japan already came through there. You got 55,000 55-gallon drums off the coastline all leaking. That's all raining all over that place all the time. And now you got this one. It's it's a sign of times. It's time to get out of the Dodge. It's a beautiful place. I get that. It's unbelievable.
It's a buyer's market now in Porter Ranch.
And so we just want, all these people that are vulnerable, anybody that's already sick, or anybody that's trying to retire and enjoy, and worked all their life and finally reached that plateau where they can retire and try to enjoy their life. That's not a spot to be. And you got to make a tough decision. Sometimes you got to walk away from everything, liquidate it for nothing to get out of Dodge. But what's the sense of staying there if you can't enjoy your life a little bit later? It's going to catch up to you. You can't avoid it. It's just this combination of what we really ultimately got to start doing ourselves is when it becomes polluted, like we know it's polluted. I hear all these accidents at all these nuclear waste sites, holding sites, and people live in them communities, and they have a fire in these places or a leach into the river or the ecosystem. And they all say the same thing. They want the government to step up and fix something. They want the government to give them money so they can leave or blah, blah, blah. But every extra day you're there, you are playing a deadly game, particularly if you treasure your health.
And your children's health.
You're going to liquidate your assets after anyway because it's just prohibitively expensive in America to be treated. Canada, we have a healthcare system. Taxpayers are picking it up, so everybody's sharing the pain. But you're not going to bankrupt every household each time you go to the doctor. Like America, you can get bankrupted with a broken arm if you've got minimum wage, for instance. So it's a very unbalanced, crazy system that shouldn't exist. And it's only because the war machine has sucked up everything. We can send in the military and deal with it. We really could. But these corporations have no accountability. So nobody can go to jail. They have corporate
They're above all laws and answerable to no one.
Right. And that's just because of a legal amendment to the Constitution, American's Constitution. So the slavery law was switched to give corporations human rights, and corporations in increments over decades all of a sudden had human rights and protections. Not all of them, but many of them. And so Gary Smith, of course, at Google can't get a criminal record, and that's why he keeps committing all of these crimes against people, is because he never gets a criminal record for it. And then the media excuses him because the corporation
He doesn't get indicted. There are no grand juries holding
it's
forth.
It's only because
Nothing.
of corporate personhood. And SoCal, California gas company is doing the same thing. All the big polluters are doing that one trick against you. And they put their money in offshore accounts on top of that, so they don't pay state, federal, local, provincial taxes. Yeah. And so there's no accountability, and taxpayers have to pick up the slack. But the longer they wait, the bigger the amount is going to be. But they can't bring themselves to say California is polluted. And they couldn't do it after Fukushima, and they won't do it for anything else. Anything to do with a handful of corporations, they're not going to admit any liability. They're not even going to... They can't hold them accountable. It's impossible. You can't... OSHA, American Occupational Safety and Healthy, cannot surprise inspect a corporation like SoCal, California, these big corporations, or the big police departments, which are corporations. You can't surprise inspect them because they have human rights that are illegal. And so if people want some kind of future, some kind of justice, they have to work really hard and challenge that illegal amendment to the slavery law, which is corporate personhood. And that is the way forward. Unfortunately, if someone was to file that tomorrow, all of these people having... You take away their security blanket, all of a sudden they can get a criminal record, they can get arrested. But that's what it was before. Before, there was all charters. For everybody else, it's still charters. It's only when you go on the stock exchange, really, that you become corporate personhood. And so, uranium mines, or these companies, energy companies, these are mostly shareholders, stockholders. That's the worst thing imaginable. It's the biggest betrayal imaginable. There's no checks and balances. Nobody can get a criminal record, or let alone go to jail. And so how do you stop the criminal from repeating their crime? Normally you incarcerate them, you liquidate their assets to pay restitution, outstanding debts and everything else, and somebody else fills in that gap. But we don't see that happening because of this thing called corporate personhood, which has now invaded the democratic countries, and it becomes a part of the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm saying is that you can attack them, but you have to attack them the only way that they're vulnerable, and that is to go after that illegal amendment to the Constitution that spilled over into democratic countries to get at these people.
Correct.
There really is no accountability, and until then, nothing will happen. Name a politician that kept a promise, right? That can't be done. So it's the same thing with this corporate personhood. You can't hold them accountable. And why not? Well, because we don't. All you need is a lawyer and foil against the legal amendment. And that's all we need, someone out there to step up and do that. Some organization.
Why isn't there one? What is the pressure that big? I mean, some lawyer who wanted to, let's say he was in it for ego, not money. He wanted to make a name for himself. He'd take this case pro bono in a second.
You could win that.
Oh, yeah.
Piece of cake, because it's an illegal amendment. It was done dirty. I mean, Justice Hugo Black wrote an eloquent dissent in 1939 of how absurd it was that an amendment meant to free black people from an oppressive government was being used to oppress the solvent people. And that's what he meant by that, was that the corporation took over, and then it didn't pay, and now it has offshore accounts, so it don't pay taxes. So all the communities has to cannibalize the people in the communities because the big corporations won't pay their taxes. And so what else is community, local government supposed to do in order to survive and get perks and swimming pools and fast cars and everything, is they got to cannibalize the community. But if you look at the tax laws, that was the one thing they were trying to avoid happening. That was the way of stopping big government, was stopping the government from taxing everybody and growing. Because that was, because if I was collecting taxes from everybody in North America for just one day, it's a lot of money, Yeah. And I know we digressed and went off in one sense, but that is the only way to hold them accountable. And so people really need to consider that ultimately somebody will do that. And that person will be a hero till the end of time, trust me. But somebody needs to do it, right? And do it sooner than later, and start retroactively holding these people accountable at that stage. And create a whole industry of prosecuting these people for their crimes. I don't care. But once again, to the people in California, is your health more important, or is your property and your assets? And from somebody that has lost in life many times and then just started from scratch and rebuilt it all again, and then had a fumble or a bad economy and lost it all again, and what do? You get back up on your saddle and you go again. And it never failed me. It always worked. It worked for everybody else that I know that done that. And so if you're going to walk away from California's real estate that you think your life is more important, is all I'm saying. And you can enjoy your life even though you got a good piece of property if you're going to be ill. And you will be if you stay in that environment. And the politicians are not going to tell you to get out of the way. Jeff told you, Yoshi told you, but no, the governments are not going to tell you. If you're waiting for that to happen,
a long wait.
You can't got no one to blame on yourself after listening to this show. Right, Yoshi, wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, absolutely. You make an excellent point. You explain it very, very well about the lack of accountability of corporations, which makes it very difficult for individuals and even class action suits to go after them. Sempra, case in point, international corporation is not considered a U.S. corporation, so therefore they can just pull up stakes anytime. And the way they are able to give donations to politicians in the state of California, there's now apparently movements. There's a bill or some sort of measure being drafted in the L.A. state legislature for approval of a rate hike in Southern California, a natural gas rate hike, to pay all the costs of this disaster. Sempra will make money from this thing. And so not only will it compensate, this is just like Fukushima, the Japanese government paying this multi-billion-dollar Tokyo Electric Company, which has assets and bank holdings all over the world as they match eyes. Same thing with Sempra. They don't have to keep their money in Los Angeles. They can hide it anywhere. And so basically, the cost of compensation will probably be paid for by anyone who uses gas for heating in L.A., industries that use
all
gas
the ratepayers. You bet. Sure. All of them.
Yeah, for your gas. They're going to dump the whole burden of this. And what's really going to be criminal, if indeed that gas at well 25, which is leaking, that's at 25, which is leaking, if indeed SEPA wanted to dump that gas because it won't pay, it's way above the minimum standard for a radon, they walk away laughing to the bank. They can sell that gas, they can dump it in the air and get every penny back from the cost plus more, okay, from the residents of California. This is so unjust. It's so unjust. It's cruel. It's it's unthinkable. But the state legislatures and certainly the federal government would be more than happy to settle things that way. And attorneys will just settle. It's always a half measure, right? It's all an out of court. There's going to be an out of court settlement, which means the corporation, they still walk. So there is not a legal system here. That what Dana pointed out. Incorporated entities can get away with murder and injury, no problem, and they can walk away laughing.
Perfectly said. Exactly correct. To ask all of you again as we slide into the break here at the bottom of the hour, please do read the latest Fukushima and radiation updates at the top of the news section at rense.com for you. Just read the headlines, if nothing else. You'll understand. We got Bob Nichols, your radiation this week, number 36, telling you what the radiation counts are and counts per minute around the country. And, it's number 38, not number 36. Week number 38. Thank you, Bob, for that, as always. Fukushima radiation now mutating mammals in America. We talked about that last time. The door is still open. It's not going to close easily. This is something that is going to be picked up and watched more and more carefully by people who are not controlled and under the boot of the mainstream media and corporate America. So watch for more of that coming. It's going to happen. All right? The West Coast animals along the West Coast are dying. There aren't many left. When the whales wash up starved to death, you begin to see the devastation of the links in the food chain. They're almost gone. It's that crazy. Hold on a minute, and we'll come right back with Dana Durnford and Yoshi Shimatsu as we continue on this Monday night. Stand by. With Yoshi and Dana, I'm Jeff, and you folks, wherever you are around the world, welcome. Remember, any radioactivity that you may be encountering could very well be coming from your nearby nuclear power plant. NNPs or NPPs are loaded with a daily discharge. So if you're living within a 50-mile radius of any nuclear power plant, you are getting dosed. Keep that in mind. Okay, now, the die-off of the North Pacific. Are we getting any idea, Yoshi, about the numbers remaining of fishes? We know 97% of the big fishes, most notably the tuna, are gone. Sardines, essentially gone. Anchovies, gone. Herring, gone. Whales dying. How many whales are left? Do we know? Do we have any idea? Nobody's going to tell us. I'll wager you anything that the government knows. The government knows what's going on. They're not going to tell us. How dead is the North Pacific now? This is a difficult question. What do you think? Your turn, Yoshi. Oh, we don't have him. All right, we'll get him back. Dana, you were going to be next. So how dead is the North Pacific?
We've done 260 days on the coastline in the last 14 months. 15,000 miles, 5,600 known residential species. We're down to less than 100 symmetrically throughout the coastline if you're lucky to find 3 or 4 in each spot.
Wow.
And 4 million other species didn't recede the coastline. So anybody's not familiar, that's as dead as it gets. And that everything that's dying after the mass die-off, birds and whales and everything else, are extraordinary compared to any other year. And there's been accelerating for the last couple of years. But the 4 million other species didn't receive the coastline, so that's game over.
So they're gone. That's game. It is game over for them. They're
Birds
done.
are gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
15,000 miles, 260 days. We left. We done everything I wanted to, folks. Anybody's not familiar? We went everywhere. You can't even imagine it. 260 days of hell. In our little rubber dinghy, and we covered the whole coastline. We had another Zodiac to go ashore with. We went ashore in the islands all day, each day, at low tide in particular, but we were there 24 hours a day, and it's gone. This is unbelievable, unimaginable, inconceivable, and that Hollywood couldn't make this one up. This is the most terrifying thing imaginable, folks, and we got to raise awareness. We got to start talking about it. It's the worst thing imaginable. It's accelerating now, and everything that died is starved to death. Everything that died is checked for lead and checked for toxins and checked for mercuries and checked for parasites and checked for diseases. And very rarely do we see that, but sometimes we do. But mostly it's got to do with a lack of oxygen, and the basis of the food chain is completely missing. And like Jeff told you earlier, everything is missing. All the normal migratory animals and fish that are the most important ones, the ones that for
those are the
mammals,
food fish. Yeah, they're links, the big links on the food chain.
Converted all the smaller microscopic animals into food, into energy, are gone. That is inconceivable, and they have flopped. This is not stopped, and it hasn't stopped coming out of Japan. It hasn't stopped coming out of all the other reactors. But a melted reactor comparison. Did we get Yoshi back?
I don't know. I think so. You there, Yoshi?
I'm back. My phone just went down.
Okay.
I'm okay now.
Go back and ask Yoshi that question again.
How dead is the Pacific Ocean, Yoshi? How many animals are left? What do you think the percentages are in rough numbers?
We've heard the latest kill off up along the Alaska coast, north of where Dana normally patrols. The thousands of murderers and those cute little puffins that kids love so much. About, just untold numbers of them dead now lying along the shores. Terrible situation to see this, but obviously it's not starving to death. They died of radiation. What's interesting is kill-offs, how they die in groups.
Yeah.
It's like
they die. It's like somebody throws a switch. Yeah, it is bizarre.
Exactly. Their lifespans are determined by DNA, and suddenly they just start falling within the space span of a week or 2 weeks. Now, what's interesting about Dana's voyages, by chance or whatever you call it, fortuitousness, we want to use that word in such a situation, is that where he was patrolling is where the North Pacific current slams into the North American coast, and then it divides, splitting off to the California current moving south, and then northward, around Alaska, the southern, the shores of Alaska, into the Bering Strait. What's interesting there is that the kill-off that Dana describes, that many people, including anti-nuclear people, don't want to believe, they don't want to hear this. They're letting their subjective wishes get in the way of the hard scientific realities.
Correct.
Is that the extent of that total kill-off is now starting to expand. And we see now it's in the Alaskan coastal waters with the kill-off of all the birds there. The sudden shutdown of their biological clocks. I think we're going to see much more of that also in the in the California current. We're seeing a lot of individuals take it. We've seen certain species take it, but we're talking about just a general extinction event of all life forms, or the vast majority of life forms. What Dana has reported on is becoming a reality. It's moving out. It's moving, north and south. And I do have a word for so-called anti-nuclear, activists who don't want to believe this stuff. Well, go out there yourself. Don't close your eyes and believe in wishful thinking. Dana's been out there. He reported all the data, all the photos. It's all there, documented. And the latest kill-off in Alaska really confirms in a big way thousands of birds of two different species, at least.
Well,
the
the biologists that are watching this are using words like horrifying, unprecedented. They've never seen anything like it. These are unqualified statements of shock. They cannot believe what they're seeing. And when you say all the birds tend to die en masse in a group, it's as if they've been consuming these radioactive food sources little fishes and so forth, as a species, and it builds up in them, and at about the same time, because of their daily intake, it pretty much equals each other. They try to eat about the same. That's what they do. And it gets to a point that the radiation in them bioaccumulates, and their systems begin to break down, and all of a sudden, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. And, the thing, Jeff, is that humans are not exempt. We're not some sort of special, alien, super species.
No.
That, I've talked to a Japanese friend who's just back from Japan. He says it's not reported in the press. No one talking about openly, but I've heard from many people who commute in Tokyo the frequency of people, commuters, just collapsing and dying on the tracks, just falling over, keeling over dead on the railroad platforms. He said, this is really astounding. There's never been. So very much like these birds, we may see mass kill-offs of humans also, starting in Japan, but then extending outward, into North America.
I agree. All right. Stand by. We have to take a little short break. We'll come right back and wrap things up for this Monday in just a couple minutes with Yoshi and Dana. You go to the beach this coming spring, after the 5th year anniversary of the Fukushima Daiichi catastrophe, and you'll notice carcasses of sea lions, birds, fish, and so on littering the beaches for miles. You'll read the words complete reproductive failure, horrifying, horrid, mind-boggling, and off the charts. This is just an unprecedented tragedy, all brought on by nuclear power and greed. We do not deserve to be the sentient caretakers of this planet. Somebody else has to step in here and do it. We don't have what it takes as a species. Yoshi, go ahead.
This disaster is just so great. It's just staring us in the face. People are dying too. Kids are coming down.
We're not talking about people yet. Just give it a couple more years. Yeah.
Thyroid cancer in San Francisco area, Northern California. Cases are increasing. And, I would like to see people who are connected with the nuclear industry, nuclear labs, utility companies, and the public relations people who work for them and hire the various online trolls and people who send letters to the editor, to editor's desk, like the ones who constantly attack Dr. Wilcox over in Japan. I'd like for them to do some soul searching now, and people in the anti-nuclear movement who just do half punches and are just happy to remain just a half a critic.
Oh yeah.
To start looking themselves in the mirror and say, I am killing. My science, my approval, my cooperation is killing my kids, it's killing my dog, it's killing my family, and it's killing me. I would like to see someone finally on year 5 say, I'm done collaborating with this nuclear industry, and I'm going to speak out. I'm going to step forward and be a human being again, and I'm going to be out there defending all those sea mammals, all those birds.
Yeah, if there are any left.
All the people out there.
Yeah.
It's time for people. Year 5. It's time you turn around. I'm just telling you, we're sick. We know. When these guys come out and poo-poo everything and try to discount what Dana's saying, attack him personally, we know they're paid to do it. It's time to just tell them to take that take that money and shove it. Take that pay and shove it,
right?
And quit being a slave of the nuclear industry and start being a human being again. And join us in this struggle against the great extermination in our time. If you you're just going to go down with a landslide.
It's coming up on 5 years. Dana, is it pretty much following where you thought it would be right now?
Thanks, Yoshi. Yes, Jeff, thank you. Unfortunately, it is. And
where do we go from here? Where year 6, year 7, year 8?
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad this year. I think there'll be no whales left on the part of the Pacific Rim nations.
None. All those beautiful gray whales gone.
That'll wake people up, is what I'm saying, basically.
Yeah, the whale watching will be out there watching nothing.
Yeah, all the kelp along the coastline, all the underwater footage, it was all full of just incredible spots all year long. It was destroying, and to the point where there was none left. But the stuff that I did see on the underwater footage tells the whole story, where you had all these beaches made of shellfish, but there's no shellfish underwater along the beaches.
No shells either.
Yeah, no shells. They're all gone. So this is a station event. That's why we're not seeing a mass die-off along Canada's coastline, because it's already gone.
Uh-huh.
Right? We proved that. And so we won't see no mass die-offs on this coastline.
Can you please get me, now that you've had time, a couple of your videos showing what you did and how you did it? I've got to get this up there for you. I'll link back to it. Just send me the links. I'll link right to it.
Excuses, man.
All right. No, you're overloaded. I know. Yeah, it's not a problem. But I want to send you the links. I want our listeners, our viewers, to watch and see what you found with their own eyes.
When I come back, I'll do a whole series on that. That's the plan. As I finish the documentary, I'm already into it.
Good.
And I have all the equipment. And so it's going to be stunning. It's going to, unfortunately, it'll be super good quality and everything else. Yeah. Yeah, but it's just shocking. How do you?
I don't know who's producing it, but you already have, as I said, probably 90% of the footage in the can. I mean, if you need, or if you want a narrator, I'll narrate it for you. I mean, whatever you want. I'll be happy to help. Whatever I can do to help. So
put that in the conversation there. Didn't expect that one to show up. And that's the whole point of this, I guess, in it, is we got to tell a story, and it has to be told properly, of course, and we're in that position where we can do that. We're the first, really, we're in that crux of history where we could tell the story, like Yoshi was saying before. We're in that moment of history of where teeter-tottering people out there on a fence starting to realize nuclear is just unbelievable. It got to go. There is no middle ground on it. It got to go if there's any hope for anything on this planet in the near future. 6-7 years from the accident, this is 5th coming up. Total devastation, unbelievable. And the system has got big cracks in it. And Yoshi's right by saying what he did, that there are people out there who want to come forward, and they got to do that, because otherwise people are just not going to wake up in time. I don't know if there is anything we can do, but we got to try. That's all I can say, folks. We got to try. What else?
Well, listen, between you and Yoshi, who else is there?
Just getting any traction or getting a voice?
But they're waking up at Porter Ranch.
I think they are. I mean, Yoshi, you and I have been doing this for 5 years now.
It took a long while, but people in San Diego, even the Board of Supervisors, started to wake up. It's a slow awakening, not fast enough, but the kill-off is so extensive. We're getting hit from so many sides. The nuclear industry is in a state of collapse, and they're still trying to expand it. They're getting more and more reckless. People must stand up now and stop any further nuclear development and start shutting it down and put this waste away. If we don't do this, it's really getting late, folks. We thought it was over by year 3, Fukushima. And we were right in a certain sense. It was over for all those Pacific wildlife species. We're talking about humanity. It's going to be over like this next year if we don't start acting. People have got to do more. People have got to start doing more. If they don't, it's over for you, your family, everything you love and believe in. Life as you knew it will be gone. And you will just be another casualty in the extinction event, another body on the beach.
Another body on the beach. How many do we have to see? We don't get to see all of them that are out there because the media doesn't want to show it. They'll show it on the local news, but you don't see it on the NBC, CBS, or ABC nightly news or CNN. You don't see much. It's just not talked about. That's how they handle these things. Uncomfortable situation. Truth comes home to roost. Could cost the U.S. government billions of dollars if people are on their toes and file lawsuits, and should. But I don't know, honestly, how much more we can do than tell people the truth, which is what we're doing. There's nothing left out there. Nothing. Very little.
Well, Dana is a diver, but I think he's doing more to uphold the spirit of journalism, truth-telling, than any journalist right now in North America.
Oh, yes, he is.
And
You got it.
Telling.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what journalism is about. It's eyewitness, be there, see the stuff, take your notes, try to figure out what's going on, look at the science, and then report it to the public. It's telling the truth of what's happening, what's gone wrong. And again, these corporate media people, it's time to dump the corporate media. And for people, the problem is the online press is being infected too. It's been terribly infected. I was shocked, because I get academia and all these. I do a lot of research papers on these research sites. Now there are academic papers defending remixology. That means the stuff you see on these bogus websites where they pick up a scientific paper, they look at news from various newspapers, and they come up with a clever angle of plagiarism. Just clever plagiarism. They're trying to defend that. They're trying to defend it. And this is worse than the tabloid press. This is worse than the things like the Sun in England or the Weekly News of the World, all that.
True.
Okay. Now, that stuff was better journalism than the garbage we're seeing on the online press. We got to make a U-turn, folks. We got to get back to the truth. The truth will set you free, and falsehood will put you on the beach. It is going to be another body on the beach, and I hate to put it that way, but that's what's happening all over the world now with radiation.
Dana, thank you for being here. When you can get those videos down to me, I'll put them up right at the top. We want people to see your heroic work up there. And I still don't know how you did it, but you did.
I'm off to court tomorrow, so it'll be when I get back, but I'll do it for sure. Right. I'm packing tonight, right?
Well, stay strong.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Stay strong, and I want people out there, who listen to the show, not to believe the garbage that's spread, to try to discredit Dana, try to support his legal defense fund, send money to him. He needs it now more than ever, and your little bit of help does matter. It does matter. I want everybody to just look through those lies. They're obvious lies from a bunch of deceivers paid by the nuclear industry, by the Crown Trust. That's a part of the Canadian government, British government.
Sure,
they
it
make
is.
money off the nuclear industry, nuclear mining. They're all on the take. Dana's out there being crucified by these people. We've got to stand with them now against this kangaroo court in Canada.
Let me know tomorrow, Dana, how it goes if you get a chance to send me off an email. Good luck.
Okay, hugs it.
Okay, good night. Yoshi, as we look back, 5 years together just about doing this, I think we can say, and I think most of our listeners would agree, and with their help, we have put up a hell of a fight and done the best we can against really insurmountable odds. But we're not going to quit. We'll keep at it. But the damage has been catastrophic. It is exactly what you predicted it would be, and I said it would be, sadly. But we have to fight. We have no choice.
Yeah, our backs are against the wall. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
When it comes down, you fight to death. We fight to death. I mean, we're 5 years later, we may not be happier. We're wiser, and maybe we're a lot tougher now, We're a lot tougher.
I like to think so. You take care. I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Okay, good night. All right, that's our Monday program. Wow, what an incredibly busy program. What an incredibly busy time it is. So many things going on. We will continue to do the best we can at Rents to keep you apprised of the situation in the world with stories that we think are worth considering. We're not asking you to believe everything you read there, but consider it and let us know how you feel. All right, take care. Back tomorrow night.